Hey, I'm Frank, and I have hidradenitis suppurativa, HS. Before starting Cosentix, I was so uncomfortable with my symptoms, like not being able to sleep on white sheets or wear white clothes. Now I can appreciate the little things.
Cosentix secukinumab is prescribed for adults with moderate to severe hidradenitis suppurativa, HS. Don't use if allergic to Cosentix. Get checked for TB before starting. Increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like TB or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if IBD symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTIX or Cosentix.com.
You're stronger than HS. Ask your dermatologist about Cosentix.
BTW, FYI. Visit Nexplanon.com RN to learn about Nexplanon. It's an gestural implant, 68 milligrams radiopaque. Or ask your HCP IRL. Okay, TTYL.
Entering a realm between the hidden and forgotten, a slipstream caught between realities, a secret museum of the esoteric, the private library of shadows, all taking place in a world forged from mystery and caught between logic and myth. You are entering para-reality.
Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Para-reality, the podcast that explores the great mysteries of the known and unknown. Tonight is the third and final entry in my summer series about everyone's favorite cryptid, Bigfoot. In this episode, we're heading deep into the Appalachian Mountains of the North Carolina, a place steeped in folklore and whispers of the wild. My guest is a man who knows these woods intimately. Jerry Millwood is a lifelong resident of the South Mountains, a Bigfoot and cryptid researcher with North Carolina Investigates, and he's had a passion for the supernatural since he was a child, but his fascination became a reality when he started having strange encounters on his very own property. Since then, he's dedicated himself to investigating the unexplained phenomenon of the Appalachian foothills. Jerry joins me tonight to share some of his most compelling personal experiences, including the first time that he saw Bigfoot. We'll also hear about some of the sightings and experiences that eyewitnesses have shared with him over the years. So put on your headphones, turn down the lights, and get ready to venture deep into the heart of Bigfoot country. This is Para-reality, and my guest is Jerry Millwood. But to learn more, of course, you'll have to tune in, and find out. But before we get into all that, I'd like to welcome some new followers of the podcast. I've got Catherine Kahn, Justice Sky 1229, and Chris Tucker. Thank you all three for the follow. Guys, I've got close to 3,000 followers, so if you're listening to this podcast and you're not a regular follower on whatever podcast platform you're listening to, please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. I think that you'll find this podcast differs from others like it by offering a unique point of view from the norm. What I do is simply present the evidence to you, and I'll let you, the listener, make up your own mind. And I encourage you to do your own research. I don't have a preset agenda. I just present the evidence to you and let you do with that evidence what you will. And if you're following me on your podcast platform here and you don't follow me on the socials, then shame on you. You need to be doing that too. It's where you can keep up with all the latest goings on with parareality, as well as get a little bit of a glimpse into my personal life. I'll be giving you the deets on how you can do that later on in the podcast. But first, I got a couple of announcements. The Parareality Podcast, as you guys know, is making its debut appearance at the Tennessee Wildman and Cryptid Con tomorrow, August the 16th, and I couldn't be more excited. I've been touting this up for a while now, and I'm going to be there tomorrow. Got to get up the butt crack of dawn and get on the road and get down to the Tennessee Wildman and Cryptid Con. It's going to be a great day. It's tomorrow, Saturday, August the 16th, 2025, at the Milner Recreation Center in McMinnville, Tennessee. This is a full day packed with guest speakers, experiencers, and experts covering everything from Bigfoot to Dogman, UFOs, and more. If it's strange, unexplained, or lurking somewhere in the woods out there, you'll hear about it at this conference. And that's not all. There's a massive vendor hall featuring all the cryptid-themed merch you could ever want. Plus, there's going to be plenty of local food trucks there to keep you fueled while you do all your exploring, listen to all those lectures. I'll be there at the Parareality table with all of my gear, ready to meet you face to face. If you're going to be there and you've ever had some sort of unusual, mysterious, or just downright creepy experience, come find me at the Parareality booth, share your story, and it just might end up featured on the podcast. And as a special surprise for those of you who have been regular listeners of the show for a few years, and maybe you're going to be there, I've got a surprise guest that's going to be with me the entire time, the entire day at the booth. Former co-host of Parareality, Eric, aka Easy E, is going to be there helping me to collect your stories. He's come back and he's going to be with me all day hanging out. So come hang out and talk weird with us and be part of the Parareality community in person. Now, on my Facebook page, on the Parareality Facebook page, I created a meet and greet event. So if you're gonna be there, just reply to the event. Just come and say, hey, you don't even have to have a story. I just want to meet you. If you're a regular listener of the podcast and you follow me on the socials, just click on that event that I've created. Let me know you're going to be there. Come find me and just at least say hi. I'd love to meet you guys. And if you got a story, I want to hear it and I want to get it on my podcast. For convention details and tickets, they're still available, so just visit the Tennessee Wildman and Cryptid Con page on Facebook. That's Tennessee Wildman and Cryptid Con. Just search it up and get your passes now. And until I see you tomorrow, take care. And by the way, speaking of big news, I got something else big lined up for you guys too. On Saturday, September 27th, I'm going to be at the West Kentucky Paranormal Expo, live and in person, ready to hear all of your stories for those of you who are going to be attending that. Now, this expo is going to kick off at 10 a.m. at the Mayfield Graves County Fairgrounds in Mayfield, Kentucky. It's a full day of paranormal panels, creepy vendors, supernatural exhibits, and all things weird and unexplained. Whether you're into ghosts, aliens, cryptids, time slips, or shadow people, this is your kind of place. This is your convention to go to. And here's the best part. I'm going to be there collecting real stories from real people. So if you're going as a vendor, as an exhibitor, as a speaker, or as just an attendee, and you've ever had a bizarre, chilling, or completely unexplainable experience, come find my booth and tell me about it. your story just might end up featured on an upcoming episode of the podcast. Now, tickets are only $10 at the door or online. Vendor passes are also available. If you've got something to share with the paranormal community, just head on over to Extreme, that's Xtreme, Xtreme ticketing, extremeticketing.com, and search for the West Kentucky Paranormal Expo. So mark your calendars, Saturday, September 27th, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. in Mayfield, Kentucky, and that's going to be at the Mayfield Graves County Fairgrounds. I'm definitely going to be there. Will you? For convention details, visit the West Kentucky Paranormal Expo page on Facebook. That's West Kentucky Paranormal Expo on Facebook. Just search it up, get the deets and your passes now. Don't keep your strange encounters in the shadows. Come share your truth.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injury is an additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
Parareality is a proud member of the Evergreen Podcast Network. For more information or to check out other shows on the network, please visit evergreenpodcast.com.
Broadcast from a secret bunker somewhere outside of Nashville, Tennessee. This is the award-winning podcast, Parareality.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. My special guest this evening is a guy that I met in May at the 2025 Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival in Townsend, Tennessee. He and his group were set up in the tent right next door to mine, and one of the nicest guys that I have met in a long time. My tent almost blew away, and if it hadn't been for this gentleman right here, I probably would have lost my tent. So everybody, welcome to the podcast, Mr. Jerry Millwood. Jerry, thanks for being a guest on Parareality. I appreciate it.
Thanks for asking me.
Yeah. I want to. I don't know if I ever got a chance to properly thank you for helping me save my tent, but I really appreciate it. Man, a big old gust of wind came up, and the stakes that I had in there just were not adequate. And boy, if it hadn't been for you, I would have lost my brand new tent. So thank you very much for that.
You did thank me at the time, but you're welcome again. It was my honor.
Everybody, Jerry is a Bigfoot researcher and investigator who is with not one, but two groups. North Carolina Investigates, NCI, who has a show on the Channel 12 network, and that's an online television thing. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. And you're also a member of Sasquatch Recon. So, Jerry, I'm really interested. You've got a lot of great stories. I featured you on the last episode that I did on Bigfoot. I always do what I call a summer series every summer, and take a topic, and I do 3 shows about it. And this year I picked Bigfoot. And the middle show was all of the interviews that I got at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival. And I saved yours for the last. So I know a little bit about some of your stories and everything, but I would like to begin with, how did you start into this Bigfoot thing? How did you get into researching Bigfoot, and what brought you into this whole weird world?
But it was kind of a slow progression over time, and I'll try to condense it as much as possible. But when I was a kid in the 70s, I'm in my late 50s now, I saw the movie Legend of Boggy Creek. My grandfather took me to see them.
Oh yeah.
So from that day forward, I was interested in the subject, and being a kid that was raised in the country, I believed at the time, I just knew in my heart, I felt it was very possible. Mm-hmm. And then I bought a book when I was 10 called Bigfoot by B. Ann Slate and Alan Berry. And I've read that book probably 15 times, and I still use that book as reference. Matter of fact, I've got it right here. 1977.
I think I've seen that book.
It's an excellent book. But it's fair to say that, it was just a source of entertainment for me.
Yeah.
I was very interested in it. I was at Fort Bragg Library, about 1986, somewhere in there. And I found a book called the Bigfoot Case Book. And I started reading it, and I came across some sightings that were in the general area where I grew up. And I actually, at the time, called one of the witnesses, and I just, told them straight up, said, I'm interested in your story. That was the days of phone books when you just looked up somebody's name.
In the yellow pages.
Roger Hoffman, he's passed on. So that was another little click. And I read about it here and there over the years. And then I moved into the South Mountains area about 12 years ago. I had family that was from here, and I decided to come back. And I got interested because we started having experiences. I got interested beyond it being a source of entertainment for me. I've started finding the tree breaks in the woods in and around the South Mountains area. And the South Mountains is a big place. The South Mountains themselves, a mountain chain's about 100,000 acres. And then the peripheral wilderness around it, you easily double that.
Is this part of the Appalachian Mountains, or is it separate?
It's Appalachian foothills.
Okay.
And then in 2015, I woke up one morning, and I was still working at the time. I've retired since then, but I had to get up extra early because I had to drive a long way every day to get to work.
Yeah.
About 5:30 that morning, warm weather, our bedroom window was open, and heard the clearest, prettiest wood knock that I've heard to date.
Wow.
And something made that noise. Something beat on a tree down in a holler across the road from me in a place where there's no people. One thing after another, heard some vocalizations, and finally, on one late Thursday night in August of 2017, my wife and I turned onto our dead-end road. And as you turn on our road, to the left, it was planted in corn that year, and it was August, so the corn was up. And there stood one just looking at us.
Really?
And it took a second to register, and I slammed on the brakes.
No kidding.
My wife was watching, and I started to back up the car. I wanted to aim the headlights toward the creature.
Yeah.
Bad move, probably a bad move, but it never gave me the opportunity. She said it's stepping back into the corn.
So this
and
was
I got
at
the
night.
lights there, and I could see its head above the corn as it moved.
Yeah.
And it was massive. The shoulder width on that creature, just it boggled my mind. I was speechless. It was just absolutely massive.
How tall would you estimate it to be?
At least 7.5 feet.
Wow.
Maybe.
Wow, that is massive.
It was taller than the corn, and generally this corn that they grow commercially is going to be about 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
And it was much taller than the corn.
Yeah.
And that's the night. That's the exact moment in time when it became something I wanted to research and ask questions about.
That's the pinpoint. You can look at that and go, that is it. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Now, me being a Southern boy, I was born and raised in the South, still live in the South and right outside of Nashville. I know what a holler is, but for those people who are listening who don't know what a holler is, you said that you heard the wood knocks one day in the holler across from your house. Tell everybody what a holler is.
A holler is, let's say, a little valley that cuts through the woods. High ground on two sides. Usually it goes toward water or comes from water, or may come up from off a high ground down to low ground. But it's a little valley, more or less.
Like a little mini canyon is what I call it.
Exactly.
So for those of you who don't know what a holler is, there you go. There's your definition. So, getting back to when you first saw this 7.5, 8 foot tall, for lack of a better word, Sasquatch, Bigfoot. How long ago was that?
That was August 2017.
2017. Okay. I think you might've said that, but I can't remember. So 2017. So since then, so basically for almost the better part of a decade, you have been full blown. This is something I want to get into. And did you like start doing this like on the weekends? Was it I'm going out, squatching by myself, or did you immediately start looking for groups? How did it start after that fateful night?
At first, and for a couple of years, I treated it as kind of a very private matter.
Mm-hmm.
Retired from my job that month, the 1st of August 2017. So I had time, but it was very private. I would go in the woods by myself. I've got a background, lifelong outdoorsman. I was in the Army. And I spent a lot of time in the woods, spent a lot of time outside at night,
mm-hmm.
just observing, and have had numerous experiences since then, because I went from being completely passive to doing this on purpose. And I started getting out there, and I started getting results, because we live in an area of the South Mountains that has a history of this. I've heard all the vocalizations. The only vocalization I haven't heard is the language, the garble language, like you hear on, say, the Sierra Nevada tapes,
mm-hmm.
Sierra Sounds. In December 2019. I, along with one other person whose identity I will protect, saw one only about 175 yards from my back door down the hill next to the woods. So that was my second sighting. And then I joined what was at the time was known as Dirty South Squatching. I reached out to a fellow named Dwight Campbell. Somehow, I forget how we wound up being connected on Facebook, but I reached out to him. I said, I'd like to talk to you about some stuff, because I see you're a seasoned investigator. And so Dwight came and we went into this area. Fortunately, Dwight had been researching the South Mountains for quite some time. And 6 months later or so, I became a member of the group. And then last year, I was invited to become a member of the NCI team. I was on their TV show, and after the TV show was over with, they asked me if I'd like to become a member. And I jumped at the chance, because all the people out there that's seen more than me and researched more than me and been in it, they've been in it longer than me. I've got questions. I'll wear them out with questions still yet. And I'm just getting exposed now to all these other folks who's been researching, investigating, and the biggest thing though, here's the love of my life right now, outside of my wife and children, and that's getting to talk to witnesses.
Yeah,
that's what launched my show that I do. I went to work for a little country store here in this area, and the lady that owned it she was one of the few people that knew that I was reading about Bigfoot, stomping the woods, looking for stuff, trying to talk to folks. And so Fox called her and said they're doing a documentary. They're using the store's headquarters and wants to know if you would interview. And I agreed, and I told them I would do it if they silhouetted me and disguised my voice. So they filmed, and then January 21, it came out. They silhouetted me, but they didn't disguise my voice.
Oh, no.
So everybody in 3 counties knew it was that guy that works down at the store.
Yeah, they knew who it was, yeah.
It was a blessing. People started coming to tell me their stories. And that's when I fell in love with collecting people's stories.
You never know. You never know when something like that is gonna, you think it's a bad thing, but then it turns out to be something really, really good.
It did.
Well, so do you have, when you collect stories, do you record this? Do you is it audio, video, or do you just write it down? Or?
Well, I always, at minimum, write it down.
Okay.
In this area, as it is in a lot of areas, people are very sensitive. And if they request anonymity, I certainly honor that. And if they don't want it electronically recorded, then I'll write it down. But I have them on video, I have them on audio, and I have a number of ones which simply my notes I took during the interview.
Do you have any plans on putting all this together and making some sort of book or anything?
Yes. I'm gonna try to get it all together by end of fall and get it in book form. And I think I found a publisher.
That's great.
And most of the stories not all of the stories, but a lot of the stories I've collected, I've released in the form of my TikTok show and on YouTube. But all of it's going to make a good. I probably have enough for 2 books.
Wow, there you go. So a volume 1 and a volume 2. I like it. So you've seen Sasquatch twice. Most people don't even get a chance to see one in their lifetime. So 2, that's pretty phenomenal.
There's a possibility that there was a third just a couple months ago up in the mountains of North Carolina, mm-hmm. The big mountains as we call them. I got a picture, but it's not definitive. I saw it moving, so did my teammates, but if I'm going to say I saw one, I'm going to have seen its face. And I didn't see its face. I just saw body.
Yeah. So you're very careful about what it is that you put out and say this is a Sasquatch sighting.
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. And I appreciate that because there are so many people who, and I think we had a brief discussion about this when we were talking at the Bigfoot Festival. I think there's just so many people out there who are looking for their 15 minutes of fame and they see something and they're like, oh, well, there's absolutely no other way in the world that could be anything else other than a Bigfoot. So let me throw it out there. And they'll, painstakingly draw, an outline of whatever. And here's the eyes and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes that you just can't see it. You're like, I don't know what they're seeing, and I wouldn't put something out there like that, So I'm glad to see that you are very careful with the evidence that you present. And that's one of the things that I really liked about your teammates with NCI was that all of them are very careful with the evidence that they present. And all of you guys aren't just out there saying, oh, I'm going to do whatever it is that I can to grab my 15 minutes of glory, and I know that's not why you're in this. And that's one of the things that drew me to you, that wanted me to get you on the podcast, was because I love to talk to people who are just like me, average, ordinary, everyday people who have a story to tell. And man, you've got some good ones with everything that you've done.
And it all comes down to me getting to have personal experiences, which propelled me into researching this and investigating and looking for answers. And then I explained the haphazard way in which I got into collecting people's stories. And I've talked to a lot of people over the past 3 years. And I'm pretty good at reading, folks.
Yeah.
I retired from the court system. I don't mind saying that. I read, and I'm going to say 1 out of 50 was shooting me a line, but I really appreciate all the people that came to talk to me. And I asked the same question, and perhaps you've asked this question to people, but I asked, why are you telling me your story? And they said, in so many words, they felt the exact way that I did, and my wife and others. You want to be validated.
Yeah. You want to know that there's someone else out there that experienced something very similar, if not the same, that you did, and you don't want to feel like you're crazy, and it's because you even yourself, you admittedly experienced that, because you said after the first sighting you had, you kept it under the table, and there was a time when admitting that you saw stuff like that was considered faux pas. It was like, no, you don't do that because people think you're nuts, but now it's more I'm not going to say mainstream, but it's more accepted, so why do you think that is?
Well, I can definitely speak for this area. Now, this is a mountain culture area and a very private people. And there's things that the mountain culture wants to keep within the community. And the sightings of, as we call them, boogers, is one of those things a lot of people protect.
Yeah.
They won't talk about it. If everyone that's had experiences in this area was to come forward and tell their story, it would be incredible. But they don't want to be made fun of. They want to keep it private. They don't want to give information to the outside world. And I try to honor that as much as possible. But at the same time, I had experiences, and I feel like that gives me a license to talk about this in the way that I choose, as long as I don't burn anybody or burn their location, et cetera, et cetera.
And as someone who has felt, trying to think of the correct words here, someone who's seen and had this experience and felt like, okay, I'm by myself in this, and then to know that there are others out there who've experienced it, I'm sure that's very freeing. And in a way, it's like, man, now I have, like you said, a license to go out and tell this story. Would you, before I ask my next question, I need to take a break, try to earn some money for the podcast. So we're going to pause for the cause for just a minute, and then I'll be right back, everybody, and I'll continue my interview with Bigfoot researcher and investigator, Mr. Jerry Millwood. All right. Thanks for listening to those messages. Help me try to keep the podcast on the air. Talking with Mr. Jerry Millwood. He is a Bigfoot investigator and researcher with North Carolina Investigates and, make sure I get it right, Sasquatch Recon, right? Okay. All right. So before we took a break, I was about to ask you a question. And we took a break, and whatever the hell it was I was going to ask you went bye-bye. It totally flew out of my head. So I will think of it. It'll probably be after the interview's over, and then I'll ask you later. But one of the things that I had in my well, I have several questions that I had that's been floating around ever since I booked you on the show is, you started out as a solo investigator, and then you had a chance to join these groups. Do you find that it is do you think it's better for someone to join a group, or what about solo investigators? I mean, what's your advice to those people who are just going out and doing it like by themselves on the weekend? Is that a good idea? Is that something that you need to continue practicing? Because I know everybody gets into it probably by themselves, on the weekend. Then they find a group kind of like you did. So what's your advice for those people?
For those that want to go, that are doing the solo thing, and I don't think there's any problem with that. I think you learn quicker as a part of a group of other experienced people. But going solo, if it involves going out into the woods, a big thing that will influence my answer is, well, what are your skills? What are your wilderness skills?
Yeah.
If you've got a background, go do it. If not, you got to be careful. You start getting into the deep wilderness, you may wind up being the subject of a search and rescue team, or worse, you wind up being a statistic on missing 411 with Dave Politis.
Yeah, you're just gone. Yeah.
I think both. I still do both. I have, the things that I do on my own, because the groups can't be together all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's a good combination of both. It's a balance. Everybody within the group each does their own thing, and the sum of the total of the parts gives you a really good product.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. Yeah. So everybody has their strengths that they bring to the table, and then you build your team off of that, and you have that meld into like one giant experience. Yeah.
I'll give you a good example of how the group thing helped me. Of course, Bob Trent and Dwight Campbell in Sasquatch Recon, they're the ones that started mentoring me. And then when I got in with George and Tim Deal and all of those guys in NCI, They came to an area that I frequented, and here's the special thing about that area was finding deer kills. A highly concentrated number of deer kills within a relatively small area, and they weren't deer that just died naturally or were shot. I was finding deer with their necks broke, their rib cages crushed, legs broken, legs pulled off. And I asked them, I said, will you come and help me look at this? And we actually found a new kill area. And Tim and Tim Deal and George Lunsford both pointed out to me some things I would have never noticed. There was actually a kill structure set up in hollers where they would have groups of watchers in the holler, and chasers chase the deer into the holler. And we have no evidence that Sasquatches or these creatures, they don't use any kind of tools other than sticks maybe, but they have to manhandle these deer. And they pointed out to me and said, you see that clump of trees over there? That's actually a hide, a place where one of the watchers would have hid. And it amazed me when they pointed those things out to me. Then they stood out like a sore thumb, and I saw it. We actually found a couple new deer kills that day with it was two of them had broken back left legs. What was left of the corpse was these broken legs. I found one with the front legs were pulled off together. They were still attached, but laying on the ground separately from the torso. And the reason they do that is to immobilize the deer.
Yeah, you pull the legs off, they're not going anywhere for sure.
It's not easy to fight a deer, and ultimately they have to break its neck or crush it. Like a big bear hug, like a constrictor snake would do, and it's easier to do if they're not, if they don't have the capability of running.
Yeah, no kidding. I find this amazing because you're the first person I've ever talked to that's ever said anything about Bigfoot hunting in packs. So is it your contention that they travel in packs and live in like group type settings, or do they only get together, when it's time to hunt?
They live in the accepted term now, as far as I can tell, is they live in clans.
Okay.
And small groups, relatively small clans, and they have their own geographic area where they live. But you also have, we'll call them rogues. I don't necessarily mean to paint the lone Sasquatch as some kind of evil thing, but a rogue that for whatever reason has broken off from the clan. And that's usually going to be a young male, a juvenile male, which would be the equivalent of a teenager, if we compare it to the human timeline. And I believe that, I know this, a lot of the footprints that I found were of juveniles. You're talking 14 to 15 inch tracks, roughly 400 to 500 pounds based on the depression, the amount of dirt that they mashed down. Mm-hmm. And I believe that's where most of your rogue or your solo Sasquatches, I think they're juvenile males. At least that's the case around here. We had a time period in this area from 1978 on into the summer of 1979 where there was, based on all the evidence for sure, a lone rogue young Sasquatch that was in this area, and there was dozens and dozens of sightings. And it had broke away from the clan, and which would have stayed deeper in the woods and came out. It didn't have the experience to know where it should and shouldn't leave footprints, that it should stay hid all the time, that type of thing.
Well, if Sasquatch are living together in clans, how come the majority of sightings when people see one is just one and they don't see, multiples? How can you explain that?
If there's a given area where a clan is living, mm-hmm. they're going to know, just like the regular wildlife knows, when we humans enter their domain, they know we're there. They're going to, just like a military unit, they're going to have scouts. They're going to send out scouts. to get eyes on the situation. And most often when people see them, if they're not a juvenile Sasquatch that's kind of wandered away from the clan, there would be the great big males, the alphas, who they're going out, they're the tip of the spear going to check the problem. And I think that most of the time we see them only because they decide to let us see them. And there's an element of self-defense into letting themselves be seen for a quick second. Because what do most people do?
They freeze.
They freeze and then flee. So
what about the sightings that's at like you, for example, your first sightings late at night and you see one in a cornfield on the side of the road, or you see one dart across the car in front of you? What's your explanation for those? What's your belief that those are?
Usually they're either just moving from location A to location B, or they're hunting. A good place to hunt deer is beside a cornfield at that time of year, because the corn and also the soybean fields. The soybean fields, when the soybeans are on the plants, that's a good place to try to spot a Sasquatch. And that'd be a good place for a Sasquatch to set up an ambush site to nail a deer.
Okay. I can get down
now,
with
the roadside sightings, which is of all the types of sightings, those fascinate me more than anything, because I've had my own experience, but I've talked to so many people who had that quick, unexpected sighting, in the middle of nowhere, of this giant creature just standing by the road.
Yeah.
And I think usually they're just on the move, walking from one location to the next.
Do you think that Sasquatch are nomadic, or do they have like a territory and they stick there for the duration of their life?
I think it depends on what part of the country and what part of the world they're in. Now here, during the hottest months, our experiences goes down. I still find, I still hear vocalizations. I still find evidence of them being active, but there's just fewer. I think most of them go back on the high ground and high up in the South Mountains.
Okay.
Out in the Pacific Northwest, they move, they migrate based on the weather.
Okay.
To get away from the cold, and then vice versa, to get away from the heat.
Okay.
And for the food too.
Gotcha. Okay, so we got about 7 minutes left here, and I want to ask you two questions really quick. What is your best evidence that you have, that you've collected over the course of your...
my best evidence is what I call the totality of all the evidence that I got one photograph from the second sighting. I have a ton of audio recordings. Found a ton of footprints, the dead deer. But when I step back and look at the whole body of evidence that I've accumulated, I call that one giant piece of evidence.
Okay. So it's everything, just
everything.
Okay.
Yep.
And second question I have is, what is, if you can tell it kind of quickly because we're running out of time, what is your best story?
A family that I know the family. I'm intimately, they're my best friends. They wanted to come camp near here, and they came. They brought the kids and they set camp up. And that night, Sasquatch came in on them close enough. They heard the gibberish language.
Wow.
They heard them walking, and after the gibberish language stopped, they found that they were surrounded on three sides.
Uh-oh.
And the family fled in the middle of the night, loaded up, and pulled out down in that creek bottom, and got the heck out of Dodge.
Wow. That's pretty scary.
That's the scare. I've got a lot of good stories, especially, the ones that's been given to me by folks that live here in this area. But that's the one that would scare me the most.
Yeah.
I have my kids there. They're within, 20, 25 yards, just off into the woods in the mountain laurel. You can't see them, but you can hear them. You can hear them talking and walking. And to me, that would be terrifying.
Do you feel that Sasquatch is violent? Should we be scared?
Regionally, some areas, the Sasquatches of some areas are known to be more aggressive. Now, here in this area, if you're a dog, outside of a couple rare exceptions, if you're a dog, they're going to kill you. I have found so many dead dogs. We have an impressive history of dogs going missing in this area.
Now, you've got a personal story about a dog that I featured on the previous episode that contradicts that statement right there. But you did say under certain circumstances, which that dog definitely would be a special circumstance. So if you guys haven't heard Jerry's story, go back and listen to the 2025 Smoky Mountain Bigfoot episode, because his story about that is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Now that is my personal favorite story.
Yeah.
And I'm sad to report Scoot did pass about a month ago.
No.
Old age.
Yeah.
He was over 8 years old and he died peacefully in his sleep.
Well, I send out positive vibes to you, sir, and I'm sorry for your loss. I know he was a special member of the family. So well, Jerry, we got about 3.5 minutes here, and I wish I had more time. And I want to extend an invitation for you to come back on the podcast and tell us more about your stories and your experiences, because I think you got a lot more that we need to hear. So I'm going to get you back on here in the future. And
I would love to be back on. You just say when.
Yes. Tell us, I've got 3 minutes here. So 2 questions that I ask everybody. If there is someone out there who has, they've had an experience, they think maybe they've seen a Sasquatch, or they know that they've seen a Sasquatch, or if they maybe want to get into all this investigative realm that you're in, how can they get in touch with you if they want to tell you their story, or if they want to reach out to you for advice? How can they get in touch with you so you can advise?
You can look
them?
me up on Facebook, Jerry Millwood Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk to people through Messenger, TikTok, J.R.Millwood. And my email address is canebreak18@hotmail.com. CANEBRAKE18 Feel free to reach out to me on any of those platforms.
All righty. Well, that kind of answered the second part of the question was how are we going to know, how to get in touch with you? So real quick, we got a couple of minutes left. So tell us about NCI and Channel 12. How can we find you on the web?
Sure. Well, Channel 12 TV Network's a streaming service. It's on Roku. It's on all the major platforms, and it's a subscription service. And the NCI show is bi-weekly. We record 2 episodes a week. And NCI hopes to be expanding in the number of conferences and festivals that we speak at, and I will personally post all of the NCI upcoming events on Facebook, on TikTok, on YouTube.
And you can look Channel 12 up on the web.
Yeah, on Facebook, on the web. You can go on your Roku and do a search for Channel 12 TV Network, and it'll pop up. Okay,
and that'll get them the NCI Investigates television show, as well as your personal show.
My personal show's on TikTok and YouTube.
Okay. All right. Tell us once again how to find you on TikTok and YouTube.
TikTok is J.R.Millwood.
Mm-hmm.
Then YouTube is Rebels Dark Tales of Appalachia.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jerry. It has been a great pleasure to talk to you. I wish we had more time because I want to hear more of your Bigfoot stories. You got a wealth of information, a lot of stories, and it's one of the most fascinating storytellers. You found your niche in life there, buddy. So thank you. Thank you very much for appearing on the Parareality Podcast, and I'm definitely going to get you back on here in the very near future.
I'm looking forward to it, brother.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that about does it for tonight. I want to thank my special guest, Mr. Jerry Millwood, for all of the fascinating Bigfoot stories that he was telling us. Man, I got to get you back on the air real soon, Jerry, because you got a lot more to tell. There's a lot of stuff for us to hear. And I want to thank you, the listeners, for listening. But before I close it out, here are a couple more things. If you'd like to leave a comment about tonight's episode of Parareality, have an idea for a topic you'd like me to cover, or a story you'd like to tell, send me an email, sandman@parareality.com, or call the Secret Bunker at 615-692-1170 and leave me a message. Don't forget that by leaving me your message, you're giving me permission to play your comment back on the podcast. Also, don't forget to follow Parareality on social media. You can find the podcast on Facebook by looking for sandman.parareality, or you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram under the username @ParaRealRadio. You can also find Parareality on YouTube under the username Parareality1, and that's Parareality with the number 1 out behind it. Parareality.com is the home of the podcast on the web, and it's also where you can find paranormal news from all around the world in the Para News section. And you can listen to past episodes in the archive section, all for the price of absolutely nothing. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can buy yourself some swag in the official Parareality shop while you're there. You can also support the podcast for free by leaving me a 3-star or better review on whatever podcast app you're listening on. Your reviews help the podcast to grow and reach even more people, and I would appreciate it very much. I'd love to hear from you guys, so send me those emails. Thank you. Well, I keep saying that I've got to rework that commercial because the phone number has changed and I can't remember to rework the commercial until I'm playing it. So look, the phone number that I was using was associated with Skype for 2 decades. And now Skype is shut down. They're not in business anymore. So I had to get a new phone number. So the actual phone number to the Secret Bunker is 615-492-4364. So write that down. 615-492-4364. It's 24/7, 365. Call, tell me your story, say hello, say I love the podcast, say the podcast sucks, say you sucks, whatever you want to say, call and say it. And if you're telling me a story or whatever and you get cut off because there's a time limit on the voicemail, then just call back, pick back up where you left off, and just finish your story, and I'll get it edited in there, and it'll be just fine. So that number again is 615-492-4364. That gets you right in here to the Secret Bunker, 24/7, 365. Now, everybody, I am pleased to let you know that my official Patreon page is still up and running, and for as little as $1 a month, you can get a commercial-free episode every month of this podcast, and there's other bonus content as well. And for just a few bucks more, you'll have access to my companion podcast, Midnight Syndicate, and Beyond Reality, plus the opportunity to appear as a guest on the podcast. Subscribing to my Patreon not only helps support the Parareality Podcast, but also helps me to continue to bring you quality content on a regular basis. Look, I don't make money at this. Everything that I earn from Patreon or merch or whatever goes right straight back into helping me produce this podcast, because I'm a very small one-man independent podcast, And I know I'm not going to be the next Joe Rogan or anything like that. It would be nice, but it's not going to happen. So I don't make money. It costs me money to do this. So if you donate anything through Patreon or by buying merchandise or whatever, it goes right straight back into helping me produce this podcast. And I don't pocket a dime of it. I do this because I love to do it, not because I'm trying to get rich. So if you want to learn more about the Patreon, just go to patreon.com/parareality, or you can even just go to parareality.com and just find the Patreon link right there and just click on it. It's a 7-day free trial, so you can join for free for 7 days and get all this bonus content that I've got on there, and you don't even have to pay for anything for 7 days, and then you just cancel your membership. So you can do that if you want. One way to help the podcast grow, which is my goal, is I want to get this as many ears as I possibly can. And one way that you can help me do that without really doing much effort at all or without spending a dime is to just whatever podcast app you're listening on, give me a 3-star or better review. That's all I ask. And just, that helps the podcast grow. The more reviews you get and the better they are, the more, attention is paid to it. So a 3-star or better review would be wonderful. Everyone, I hope that you enjoyed tonight's episode of Parareality. Now, I'm going to take off a couple of weeks here for the end of the summer, so the next episode is not going to drop until September the 5th, 2025 at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. So it's, end of the summer, it's vacay time. Got to take a little refresh and recharge time for myself because this is a lot of effort for one person to do, even though it's only twice a month. I still put a lot of time and effort in this. So it's time for my end of the summer recharge. I'll be back September the 5th, 2025, 8 o'clock p.m. Central U.S. time. And by the way, don't forget to come see me tomorrow if you're going at the Tennessee Wildman and Cryptid Con at the Milner Recreation Center in McMinnville, Tennessee, and on Saturday, September 27th at the West Kentucky Paranormal Expo at the Mayfield Graves County Fairgrounds in Mayfield, Kentucky. Come tell me your stories. Step out of the shadows and come tell me your truth. I hope this podcast opens up your mind to new ways of thinking, expands your consciousness, and produces a change in the way you see the world. If you wish to change, you must lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe. Hope you have a wonderful evening, a wonderful couple of weeks. I'll see you again, all fresh and recharged, on Friday, September the 5th, 2025. Have a great time off. I know I plan on it. Have a great weekend, and I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Good night, everybody.
If you wish to change, you must first lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe.
Hey, it's not over. Thanks for sticking around. I got something to tell you. Do you want to be a member of the Secret Sanctum? Well, if you do, there's only one way to do that. Somewhere on parareality.com is a link hidden in my website. And if you can find that link and click on it, you'll be granted access to the secret bunker, and you'll become a member of the Secret Sanctum. It's 100% free. It's not going to cost you anything. And once you become a member, you'll have access to some secret audio files and secret documents, some of which are exclusive only to Parareality and the members of the Secret Sanctum. You'll also get a free Parareality Secret Sanctum t-shirt. Just fill out the form and let me know what size you are, where you're located in your name, and I'll get that right out to you. So if you want to be a member of the Parareality Secret Sanctum and have access to the secret bunker. Find the link.